All right, today's reading was in Exodus 16. Pretty cool chapter, and was very convenient because we talked about it. My daughter brought it up this morning driving in, so we were already talking about it. Anyway, let's get to it. Chapter 16, verse 1. They set out from Elim, and all the congregation of the people of Israel came to the wilderness of Sin, which is between Elim and Sinai, on the 15th day of the second month after they had departed from the land of Egypt. And the whole congregation of the people of Israel grumbled against Moses and Aaron in the wilderness. So they came to this place called Sin, right? So my first question was, why was it named Sin? Every place, if you read through the Old Testament, if you, even just historically, it typically says this is the name of the place, this is what took place here, this is why it's called this. I'm going through 2 Samuel right now, and it talks about, the pool of Gibeon and why they call it what they do because of the death by the sword that happened there. And that was a big, massive slaughter. And so, is it called sin because they were grumbling against Aaron and Moses? Is it called sin because they were sinning this whole time? I don't know. It doesn't really talk about it. It's something that I'd be interested in doing a little bit more research on, but I thought, for it to say that and then it doesn't say why, all these other places, it talks about it in the different places and why they name it what they do. Anyway, verse 3, and the people of Israel said to them, would that we had died by the hand of the Lord in the land of Egypt, when we sat by the meat pots and ate bread to the full, for you have brought us out into this wilderness to kill this whole assembly with hunger. They're sitting there acting like they ate like kings when they were in Egypt. They were slaves. And they're like, man, we had these big pots with meat in it, and we ate bread until we were full. Sounds to me like you were just a worker in the land. But if you remember, this was weeks ago in the beginning of Exodus. It says, right, Moses left, and then God came to Moses, right? Moses fled to Midian, and then Moses is hanging out. It's actually chapter 2, verse 23. During those many days, the king of Egypt died, and the people of Israel groaned because of their slavery and cried out for help. Their cry for rescue from slavery came up to God. God heard their groaning, and God remembered his covenant with Abraham and Isaac and with Jacob. God saw the people of Israel, and God knew, right? So they were grumbling because they were enslaved, not because they were sitting by these meat pots eating, and they got to eat their fill of bread, and everything was great, and they were merry. That wasn't the case. They were grumbling. Now they're grumbling again. And they're grumbling now, like, oh, you want us to die out here? We could have died there. At least then we got to eat what we wanted and we were happy. We do that. We just need to remember that what is grumbling getting us? Nothing. However, we'll talk about that in a little bit. But they weren't eating that good, right? They're exaggerating how good their life was. Their life wasn't that good. Verse 4, then the Lord said to Moses, behold, I am about to rain bread from heaven for you, and the people shall go out and gather a day's portion every day, and that I may test them, whether they will walk in my law or not. Remember, in the last video, in the last chapter, he tested them with throwing the tree in the water and drinking the water. Verse 5, on the sixth day, when they prepare what they bring in, it will be twice as much as they gather daily. So Moses and Aaron said to all the people of Israel, at evening you shall know that it was the Lord who brought you out of the land of Egypt, and in the morning you shall see the glory of the Lord, because he has heard your grumbling against the Lord. For what are we that you grumble against us? So he's saying, you're grumbling to me, but you're not grumbling about me. I didn't bring you out of Egypt. Moses and Aaron are humbling themselves here and saying, and part of it's humbling themselves, and the other part it's like they're defending themselves. He's saying, you're not grumbling against us. The Lord brought us out of Egypt, not me and Aaron. The Lord is doing these things, not me and Aaron, right? And so he's saying here, you're not grumbling against us, you're grumbling against the Lord. And verse 8, and Moses said, when the Lord gives you in the evening meat to eat, and in the morning bread to the full, because the Lord has heard your grumbling, that you grumble against him. What are we? Your grumbling is not against us, but against the Lord. You see this grumbling repetition over and over and over, and it's like, what do we do? We grumble. Oh, it's too cold. It's too hot. It's raining. It's not raining enough. The leaves are all over the place. There's all these things that we grumble about. Not like, oh, the car needs an oil change, and tire's flat, and my roof's leaking. My dog got out. Our cat, whatever happened. Our inflation, fuel prices. We grumble about all these things, and what God's showing here is like He's listening. Are we then watching for or looking for, or do we recognize when He pulls through? When He answers our grumbling, are we looking for that? We're grumbling about our house is too small. So He blesses us with a bigger house. And by that, I mean, not that we busted our butts and we worked really hard to get ourselves a bigger house, but He ordained all these things to line up to where now we're living in a bigger house. Are we recognizing that, or are we still grumbling going, well, now I got to clean. I got more to clean now, right? Oh, my fridge isn't big enough. I can't store enough food. Now I have a bigger fridge, and now, stuff gets pushed to the back and we're wasting too much. Are you constantly looking for things to complain about and grumble about, or are we recognizing God's goodness and all the good things that He's doing, and we shouldn't have anything to grumble about, right? Especially being on this side of the cross. And so He's looking for our grumbling. Are we looking for what He's doing to answer that grumbling? And the truth is, we should just stop grumbling, right? We have an almighty God. He's awesome. He's powerful. He takes care of us in so many different ways. We should really stop grumbling. Anyway, and Philippians 2:13 was a verse that got brought up when we were talking about this, because it talks about almost the same thing. And I'm going to see if I can flip it real quick, and if I can't, should have marked it. I'll just forget about it and move on. Right, I think it's right here. Right here. Yeah, Philippians 2, verse 13. For it is God who works in you both to will and to work for His good pleasure. Do all things without grumbling or disputing. That's 14. 15. That you may be blameless and innocent, children of God, without blemish, in the midst of a crooked and twisted generation, among whom you shine as lights in the world, holding fast to the word of life. There's the word of life, Jesus. So that in the day of Christ I may be proud that I did not run in vain or labor in vain. The part here, do all things without grumbling or disputing. And then 15, that you may be blameless and innocent, children of God without blemish, in the midst of a crooked and twisted generation. If we aren't grumbling, right, when the whole world's complaining around us about health, about the weather, about jobs, about money, about anything, governments, politics, the things that are taking place in the world, if we're the only ones not grumbling, we're set apart, we're different. People are going to ask, well, how come, what, you just don't care? I got too much to be thankful for to be complaining about this stuff. Why put energy into complaining about these things when I can just put my energy into praising all these other awesome things? Anyway, moving on. Verse 9. Then Moses said to Aaron, say to the whole congregation of the Lord of Israel, come near before the Lord, for He has heard your grumbling. And as soon as Aaron spoke to the whole congregation of the people of Israel, they looked towards the wilderness, and behold, the glory of the Lord appeared in the cloud. And the Lord said to Moses, I have heard the grumbling of the people of Israel. Say to them, at twilight you shall eat meat, and in the morning you shall be filled with bread. Then you shall know that I am the Lord your God. In the evening quail came up and covered the camp. And in the morning dew lay around the camp. And when the dew had gone up, there was on the face of the wilderness a fine flake-like thing, fine as frost on the ground. When the people of Israel saw it, they said to one another, what is it? For they did not know what it was, and Moses said to them, it is the bread that the Lord has given you to eat. This is what the Lord has commanded. Gather of it, each one of you, as much as he can eat. You shall each take an omer, according to the number of the persons that each of you has in his tent. And the people of Israel did so. They gathered some more, some less. But when they measured it, it was an omer. Whoever gathered much had nothing left over, and whoever gathered little had no lack. So he always provided exactly what they needed. Each of them gathered as much as he could eat. And Moses said to them, let no one leave any of it over till the morning. And so this is a pretty cool picture of like if I'm sneaking stuff away and I'm saving some. Why am I saving some? Because I'm worried that there isn't going to be more in the morning. I'm saving it because what if I get hungry later? God's saying, I'm going to provide everything you need. They're saying, yeah, sure, I believe you, but I don't trust you. What if you don't? What if you get too busy? What if there isn't any in the morning? So I'm going to save some, right? And I do that, right? We do that. I gotta have my backup plan. Gotta have my backup plan. I gotta cling to this because what if? I shouldn't. I should be trusting him because he already said he's gonna take care of us, right? Um, where do we leave off at? Moses said to them, verse 19, and Moses said to them, let no one leave any of it over till the morning. But they did not listen to Moses. Some left part of it till the morning, and it bred worms and stank, and Moses was angry with them. It's simple, right? And God even told him, I'm going to test you through this. Trust me. Don't keep it. They did. It bred worms and it stank. 21. Morning by morning they gathered it, and each as much as he could eat. But when the sun grew hot, it melted. It went away. On the sixth day they gathered twice as much bread, 2 omers each. And when all the leaders of the congregation came and told Moses, he said to them, this is what the Lord has commanded. Tomorrow is a day of solemn rest, a holy Sabbath. To the Lord, bake what you will bake and boil what you will boil. And all that is left over lay aside to be kept till the morning. So they laid it aside till the morning, as Moses commanded them, and it did not stink. And there were no worms in it. So this is proof, right? When you keep it, when we tell you not to keep it, it's going to stink and it's going to have worms. When you keep it, when we tell you to keep it, those things aren't going to happen. So it's not like some crazy bread that molds overnight. It's crazy bread from the Lord that if he wants it to mold overnight, it will. And if he doesn't want it to, it won't. So they laid it aside till the morning as Moses commanded them. And it did not stink, and there were no worms in it. Moses said, eat it today, for today is a Sabbath to the Lord. Today you will not find it in the field. 6 days you shall gather it, but on the 7th day, which is a Sabbath, there will be none. So he's telling them there's not going to be any out there. What you saved up yesterday is what you eat for today. 27, on the 7th day, some of the people went out to gather, but they found none. What are you going out there for? He just told you there isn't going to be any. And the Lord said to Moses, how long will you refuse to keep my commandments and my laws? See, the Lord has given you the Sabbath. Therefore, on the 6th day, he gives you bread for 2 days. Remain each of you in his place. Let no one go out of his place on the 7th day. So the people rested on the 7th day. Too many people think the Sabbath was for the Lord. The Sabbath was for us. He gave us a day to rest. He was basically saying, I want you to work for those 6 days. And one day, the 7th day, the Sabbath, I want you just to sit back. I want you just to relax. I want you to look at what I'm providing for you. I'm doing so much for you that you don't have to work on that 7th day. And it was proof here. And yet they still got up and went out to collect the food, even though he gave them enough yesterday. 31. Now the house of Israel called its name manna. And it was cool because the word manna means, what is it? And if you remember back here in verse 15, he says, when the people of Israel saw it, they said to one another, what is it? That means manna means, what is it? So they called it manna. It was like coriander seed, white, and the taste of it was like wafers made with honey. So it wasn't bitter. It wasn't bland. You would think it was bland, but it wasn't. It tasted good. It was like honey. Moses said, this is what the Lord has commanded. Let an omer of it be kept throughout your generations, so that they may see the bread with which I fed you in the wilderness, when I brought you out of the land of Egypt. And Moses said to Aaron, take a jar and put an omer of manna in it, and place it before the Lord to be kept throughout your generations. So save it. Save it forever. And it never stank and it never bred worms. Why? Because God told him to do it. 34, as the Lord commanded Moses, so Aaron placed it before the testimony to be kept. The people of Israel ate the manna 40 years till they came to a habitable land. They ate the manna till they came to the border of the land of Canaan. An omer is the 10th part of an ephah. And an omer was equivalent to like 2 quarts, right? So like half a gallon. verses 23, something we talked about when tomorrow is a day of solemn rest, holy Sabbath, and then they go out anyway. How long are we going to be on our own program? How long are we going to do our own thing? Even when God's telling us what he wants us to do, even when we know what is right, and even when, like you can take this all the way back to we're still choosing sin, even when God told us what sin was. But then to go a step deeper, it's like God's calling us to do these things. God's calling us to do things for his ministry, to do things for his kingdom. Are we doing those, or are we doing what we want? Are we doing what we understand? Are we living in our own understanding, or are we saying, your will be done, God? What you want, Father. We got to stop doing our own thing and making our own way, and we need to be asking what his way is and what his plan is and what he wants for us. And how do we fit into his plan, not how we fit him in our plan. Well, God, I'm really busy. God, I got a lot of bills to pay, so I got to work 7 days a week. I got to work 9, 10, 15 days a week. You know what I mean? I got to work 50 hours in a day, right? God's saying, bro, chill out. I'll provide for you. I'll make ends meet. I'll make sure you don't go without. The problem is most of us say these are things we need and that God's not providing them. No. Those are things we want and we think we need. We need to be focused on what we truly need, not what we want. We don't want to be uncomfortable, so we work really hard to make sure we're not uncomfortable. The truth is, if we had what we needed, we wouldn't be uncomfortable. We'd be uncomfortable to a world standard, but we wouldn't be uncomfortable. They were probably uncomfortable. They ate the same thing for 40 years, but they weren't hungry, right? And I'll confess, right? If my wife makes a big pot of beef stew, and I brought this up, if my wife makes a big pot of beef stew and I eat it 2, 3, 4 days, I'm like, honey, you got to make something else. I can't eat beef stew again. I'm eating beef stew 2, 3 meals a day. I need something else. They were eating the same thing for 40 years. Now, granted, they complain and they grumble about it, and we'll read about that. But they weren't hungry. Never did they go without. How much, if I just settled in on what God was doing in my life, and how much if I just sat back and fit into God's plan instead of me trying to fit God into my plan, I wouldn't be hungry. I'd be provided for. But I have to recognize that, and I have to accept it, and I have to live in that and walk it. So that is chapter 16 in Exodus. We are boogieing right along. Today marks the start of our 12 days of destruction workout. Tough little workout. So today's workout at the end is 1 minute of jump ropes or 100 reps, whichever takes you longer. And the reason I say that is I don't want to just say a minute and then you get 10 circles, reps of your jump rope and then go and drag your feet for 5, 6 seconds before you jump up again. It's supposed to be hard. It's supposed to be a challenge. I do want you to be able to accomplish it. I don't want everything to be time. I want it to be reps. So if it takes you 4 hours to get 100 jump ropes, do it. I think you can get 100 in about a minute if you just keep working, right? So 100 or 1 minute. If you do day one, if you do 100 reps in your minute, from then on, just do a minute, right? But if you're struggling with it, yes, break it down. Do how you need to do it. But that's today's workout, 100 reps or 1 minute. Join us over the next 12 days. Follow us on TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, wherever. I'm going to post it everywhere to join us on that. Also, we'd love to have you in here next Saturday doing Exodus 17. There's some cool miracles coming up. So 9 a.m. at the Forge. Join us. It'll be a good time. And if not, you can call in, watch these videos, comment, email, join us. I enjoy the few of you that watch these and reach out from time to time with comments or questions. I personally enjoy that. So don't stop doing that. God bless you. Stay safe, and hopefully we see you on the mat.